Live show is ready. Red Bud. While we're over here drinking Izzy's, getting the show started. And it didn't work. Anyway, thank you for joining the live show. We're going to talk about so much between Jett, Toome, Degan. What the hell is going on at Yamaha with those fights? That not happened ever, along with the inconsistency of the 250 class. So, without further, let me start. The live show. Yeah, I can see a red button, but there's just some things that ended up happening that mainly trying to get to that Photo America. All right. First off, I have to talk about the elephant in the room. And honestly, I'm kind of bummed that I'm not there because it's like, you want to ask the Yamaha boys, like, why the fuck are your bikes blowing up? I mean, just plain and simple. Definitely wouldn't say it like that, but they shouldn't. You got to have the comparison between, well, I guess I have made the comparison multiple times that Degan rides that 250 like Tomac rides the 450. They're just rah, 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 rah. I mean, I was there at Thunder Valley and I could smell Degan's motorcycle getting hot. And same thing, Mosman was riding it pretty hot too. And I think his bike ended up failing too. So that's 3 star Yamaha guys that have had major issues. Okay. So this is where the whole communication with having comms might help, where it's like, hey, Degan, you might need to slow the F up, stop using the clutch. We want to make points. You want to have a full race lead against everybody. You can't do that by blowing this motorcycle up. Tomac, dude, that guy, I don't understand how he goes so fast, or he doesn't get arm pump for holding on to that rocket ship that he has. Because again, when you watch Jett ride, it's just this never completely hit the brakes 100%, always stay in a high gear. We saw him at Bud's Creek. High Point. Yeah, I think it was High Point where he stalled the motorcycle because he just lugs it in. Blah, blah, blah. It's like a road race effect. Okay, if you've ever done supermoto or any sort of road racing, if you try to go moto style where you just haul ass, slam on the brakes, and then try to go, you're slow. You feel fast, but skidding around, going from 100 to 20 to back up to 100, it's not near as fast as going from 80 to 60 back to 80. So we have a clear sign that it's better for the motorcycle, and you're honestly faster as well. So does Degan need to change his entire riding style? No, I don't think. He just has to adjust, and the factory bikes, they really should never be blowing up like that, at least failing on these guys. And that's a scary feeling to have a motorcycle go bleh, bleh, start locking up on you. I don't know if anybody, if you've had a car that all of a sudden loses all of it, the radiator leaks and you just lose power. It's not as scary. It's more of like, oh shit, this is financially going to be hard to handle. But my point, because I'm digressing yet again, is there's little faith in the motorcycle if that keeps happening. One streak to have Degan not be on star Yamaha and a 450 is have the motorcycle keep blowing up, because Brian and him are not going to be on a motorcycle that's not reliable. And Tomac is moving to KTM, and so far KTM was doing pretty good with AP, which I will get into, and in Saxon in just a moment here. But the reliability is a big thing, right? Maybe a hydraulic clutch will be good for Tomac, so that motorcycle doesn't seize up on them. I don't know. But again, though, regardless of how deep it is, the equipment needs to be sufficient enough for the riders to sustain a whole 35-minute moto, without a doubt. Without a doubt, because if you take away some of those things, Degan is the most consistent guy on a 250. Because what did you have? Tom Vial, he did really well in the first moto. The second moto, what actually did he finish in that first moto? He was third. And then the second moto, he got taken out by Mosman, which was interesting. But I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Going back to the 450 guys, is that motorcycle, man, they should not overheat like that. And it is something consistent with the Yamaha, because it happened at Thunder Valley. And I was going like, it's not crucially hot here. Like Red Bud, I could see with the humidity, but in Colorado, you're just at elevation, but you're probably riding in a lower gear. So the RPMs are high. So maybe are those bikes just geared too tall for these guys? I mean, is the idle too high to where it's just running hot? But I mean, I've shown you guys that what they do is they put cold gas in the bikes right before to help cool everything down a little bit. And they've got fans on the effing radiators to help keep them cool. So they're doing all these little trick stuff. And yet the motorcycles are still blowing up and dying on them and losing power. And back to Degan just a bit, is if that motorcycle is not reliable, he's not going to want to push it, right? But seriously, for Degan to have that mishap and he goes 14-2 for 5th overall, 14th and 2nd for 5th overall, is saying something is wrong in the consistency deal in the 250 class. Same thing with Levi going 219, right? And for 7th overall, that's pretty crazy. Well, one thing I do want to make you guys aware of is both Supercross, Motocross, and SMX, it's really just all one sport, at least that's what everyone's trying to do, is the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. They're giving away these t-shirts. Well, not completely giving them away. You've got to donate and you'll get a badass t-shirt. So I'll have the link in the description. And, let's help out some people that are not as fortunate as us, because for us being able to ride motorcycles, it's pretty cool, right? And I know there's been some gnarly stuff that's happened in the sport right now, so giving back is always very, very helpful. But if we move to Jett, okay, Jett wins by 15 seconds the first moto, and then the second moto comes from 18th to 1st, and he had to get around Saxon, and then Saxon jumped on his ass and tried to hang with him. And then what's the number one thing that Saxon keeps doing? Is it's a silly brain fart, right? He got into 2nd place and he should have just stayed there. Honestly, he should have just stayed there. It would have been better for him, the overall, and just in that moto, the confidence boost would have been nice. But no, he wanted to try to push the limit, and his front wheel went over a little berm. But it's like, how do you keep a racehorse to slow down when all they know is just racing? It's difficult. It's having a service dog, police dog that's that's retired or something, and you bring cocaine in the house or something, he's going to go ape shit. So that's the biggest deal with Saxon, is I want to see a 100% Saxon, not just mentally, but, well, not physically, but mentally is my point. And I believe he got a concussion. They somewhat said it on the broadcast. He had some other issues that he never really told anybody what was going on, but it's cool to have him back here, and he is excelling considerably. And if we look at his teammate AP, dude, I talked about it with Cody Williams, who's a two-time Ironman winner at this point. And we talked about like nutrition and training and staying in lower zones, because you can't go hard all the time, especially 5+ hours. And we were talking about how AP is just burning too many carbs. He's trying too hard. And then we also went on to talk about the fatigue, being able to withstand fatigue. And now we're at round 6. Okay. We're halfway through the season. Well, it's round 23 for AP with Supercross. It's starting to catch up with him. You got somebody out front that's Jett, that he really only had to try hard Moto 2, going from 18th to 1st, which shows you that, hey, this is him riding at 90%, him riding at 80%, he'll still win by 14 seconds. So he's good for next weekend, because now he's already started the recovery process. Because how many times as us normal human beings, if you go to the gym and you run your ass off as fast as you can for an hour or something, or ride as hard as you can over the weekend, it takes you a few days to recover. But if you were to go out for like a walk, you could do that shit every day. So yeah, that is a weird analogy. However, Jett is essentially going for a light jog and winning. So he's ready to go for another light jog in a week. AP is out there doing VO2 max intervals for 2 35-minute motos, and it's starting to play a toll. Yeah, he had some issues in Moto 2, but even Moto 1, if I just look at the results, a sixth place is not something for AP. He should be third. He's been third for so long. He's the only guy to pass Jett, okay, to catch him and pass him. This is something fatigue going on with him, and that seems to be an issue in moto all the time, is fatigue. But you want to give it up to Antonio Caroli coming off the couch. And I talked about it in my news show just briefly, with going like, hey, is this guy going to be able to withstand 2 35-minute motos? We'll probably see him up front. And he did get some massive good starts. So that was the best thing for Ducati, is to come out and get 2 really, really good starts. And then he somewhat faded backwards, and it's he's not trying to get hurt. He's in his 30s. He's retired. He's just out there for basically PR purposes. But for them saying that it's just a stock bike, no, this is essentially the toned down works motorcycle from Europe that they have over here. So I don't agree with the broadcast saying that it's a full-blown production motorcycle. We're like, oh, no way in hell. He's got even spec tires on it that we can't get. So there's that. But yeah, I see in the chat, you guys are saying he got 39th. That's just a fast older guy ended up kind of phoning it in Moto 2. It's hot. The track is rough. You're just ready to go. But there's a lot of inconsistency in both classes, mainly the 250 class versus the 450 class. And the dude that I keep just somewhat harping on is Hunter. Dude, okay, we saw him out front. That was like one of the first times that we saw him out front. Here's to Izzy, not sponsored, but it's as close as I'm going to get to red. But honestly, for July 4th, I should be having some of the, I don't know, something a little bit more festive for the 4th of July. Anyway, I'm going off topic here. Hunter, man, I said it before. I still think that for any chance of him beating his brother, it needs to be away from the Honda. Okay, there is a chance there that Hunter's just not good enough to beat Jett. But can Hunter beat Jett on a bad day? I believe so. But he has to have somewhat of a different program. And I know they gel good together. Just being in somebody's shadow, you see in the sport, so many guys are playing musical chairs, running away from each other to get off of this team to go into this team because they want to be number one. I mean, for instance, look at Tom Vial. He's not going to the 450 class to be Tomac's number 2. He wants to go. He's a younger guy. Like Tomac is 32 now. And Tom Vial doesn't want to be the second tier rider on the team. He wants to be number 1. So I almost, I have to say hypothetically, but he is destined to go back to Europe. And that's where he should go. If you can't be number 1 over here and you are a world champion and you still believe that you are one of the best guys in the world, yeah, go over there where you can be number 1, especially if Tim Geiger's leaving Honda and you need to move over to take his spot from there. Jeffrey Hurlings is kind of on his way out. Like it just makes perfect sense. It's the same thing with what Saxon is doing to kind of get out of the contract with KTM to go to Kawi, and why Jason Anderson now doesn't have a ride. That's just how this sport works, is you're only good as your last race. People don't really care that you won a championship last year. They want to know, did you win by 15 seconds last weekend? Right? That's really all that matters. And moto results are not as important as Supercross stuff, but still. Anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent there. And truthfully, with Jett getting such a bad start in Moto 2, this was the opportunity for Tomac, because Tomac can beat Jett if he fucking starts in front of him. But because his motorcycle blew up, he had such a bad gate pick, he didn't get a good start. He even got a worse start than what he normally does, because that first moto, he was like 12th or outside of the top 10 to 3rd before that motorcycle gave away. And then in Moto 2, he was 25th, right? And that he came back to 7th, which is still a good ride. But Jett, that was Tomac's opportunity. And so that was a missed deal by Star Yamaha for sure. And Prado, okay. Prado, 2 really, really good starts. That motorcycle has showed that it's fast. I'm still full believing that it's setup rather than bike. Some of the stuff that I see him do looks great, but somehow it's not quite just gelling with him. And yeah, I do think that there's like a lack of a small amount of confidence there, where it's a bummer getting past all the time, but at least he's starting up front now and he's able to build off of that versus Southwick with crashing. He didn't crash here, but he kind of went backwards a little bit. In that first moto, he was out front for 15 minutes. That is huge. That is absolutely huge for Kawi and him completely. RJ, that dude is better on a 450. He slows down. I love it when Steuart said that, hey, he's slowing down so that he's not riding the ragged edge. He's a little bit bigger of a guy, and he's making Malcolm look kind of bad on that Husky. We know that some of the money behind Husky is kind of been moving on because of the financial struggles. They've been doing more of the stuff with just the plain main team, and why that team is somewhat going away with everyone going under 110, or at least next year is going to be more of the final deal. But RJ is riding like he's wanting a job next year. And that's what you like seeing. He's riding right up front with AP when AP is somewhat not as tired, because it's in the first 10 minutes or so of the moto. And that's honestly one of the biggest surprises for me, is RJ riding up front with those guys. I'm honestly, I'm really disappointed with Tomac because of the Yamaha, because I want to see him ride with Jett. I want to see him. I want to see beast mode out front. I don't want to see. He almost has to have like somewhat of a fire under his belly, and I think we might see that in the next race, because he might have something to prove because of this. But that kind of goes with when these riders are changing teams. You know, you want to stay healthy for SMX, and that's pretty much the main reason why Saxon is coming back, is so that he can have a good paycheck on the KTM right when he leaves. Okay, it's not to defend the championship, or else he would have continued to race round 2 of motocross rather than miss out this many rounds. Okay, now he's just working for a spot in SMX, but he's wanting to build confidence. Saxon is that rider that needs to have a good last race for him to somewhat finish well the next race. He's not like the Degan, unfortunately, where you can have a really bad off race and then you can just forget about it and come back and kick everyone's ass. And still, with Degan finishing 5th, he had a rough time. I should have had it pulled up here. I don't know if I want to take the time to pull it up here live. But his crash in qualifying, he was down for a while. Screw it. You guys can be here with me. Just everyone. I'll listen to the chat a little bit, but it shouldn't be too hard to find real quick. If I search here, I believe Motocross Action, shout out to those guys, picked it up with his crash. And now the question, oh yeah, it's right up front on his page. That's not bad. Okay. So here is it. Just augers in. And then he must knock the wind out of himself. Again, I don't understand why these guys do not wear any protection. Okay. Yes, you have the roost guards, but you should have some sort of pads or something. And there was an interesting conversation that I had with Cody Williams about being more aero with some tighter gear that I will make a smaller video on before that potentially could add up. But this is somebody that took a hard hit, right? And this isn't like MXGP where you have a whole day to recover because qualifying is a day before the race on Saturday. This is mainly, hey, what did he even said? Face down, ass up. He made a great look. He's just got we gotta like that. Gosh. He dug deep, right? And then he ended up crashing a couple times in the race, which is a bummer, right? But you win championships even on your bad days. Okay. And he went 14-2 for 5th overall. You can't really leave this live show without talking about Joe Shimoto. Okay. I not that I don't think he had it in him. I just was expecting these rides to come from Hymas, but then Hymas tore his ACL. So then who's left on the team? Okay. Joe. And Joe won. What else can we say there? He rode well, but he rode well when Degan was on a bad day. So now the interesting thing is will we see Joe shine when Degan is on a good day? Is that 2-2 for Joe, or could he still win? And unfortunately, I kind of think it's 2-2. That's just the 250 class right now. And Degan is somewhat being able to ride through these guys almost, I say almost as well as Jett is in the 450 class. But Jett is riding very consistent, and he's not. The thing I see between Degan and Jett is Degan's in a hurry and Jett is patient. And to me, that shows almost a little bit more confidence on his riding style, not the mental aspect of Degan is in a hurry. He's like, hey, I'm gonna bully you. I'm gonna bang bars with you to get by you. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Jett is so confident in his ability that he can ride behind you for a while and then eventually pass you whenever he wants. I'm just gonna wait for you to get tired or push you to make a mistake, and then he goes and gets up. And the last thing, I guess the two last things is Bobby Regan on the Yamaha, the owner of Star Yamaha. Whatever he said to Mosiman has been working. Mosiman has been riding better ever since he told him that he needed to retire. And Mosiman, unfortunately, just has a little bit of bad luck. Even though he went 4-4, he pretty much probably should have gone 3-3 at least this weekend. So it's a building weekend for him, but I believe Star Yamaha is getting to the point where they're like, enough building, we want to see the results. And again, Mosiman is riding well, but he's somewhat in the shadow of guys like Tomac and honestly the whole 450 squad. Cooper is riding his ass off. He's getting some fastest qualifiers. He's just not being able to put it together on the actual motos. Webb is just kind of out there riding around, keeping his points lead for SMX. Tomac is trying to win races. He's getting close as long as his bike doesn't blow up. And the Triumph guys, it's Harrop and Swole are making the veterans with Faulkner and Smith look bad on the Triumphs. Talking with some of those riders, they're saying, hey, this is a new team. We're trying stuff out. Well, Swole was out front for a good 10 minutes in Moto 2. Those bikes were up front off the start. Tells you that they're fast. Why can't they put it all together? What's going on? Right? Swole and Harrop are showing what the fuck is up in Triumph. Smith, he's a Supercross guy. He may still be injured from Supercross because, he did crash really hard with Cole Davies and also in the whoops, I believe, at Glendale. And so he may be recovering. He's getting older. He's almost in his 30s right there. But Swole is somebody that is sort of a sleeper, right? I would say that he's a sleeper in the class where you don't expect it, but then when it happens, then you go, oh, yeah, I could totally see that happening. So for that, maybe Swole's going to be the guy that actually is able to beat Degan on a good day, not when Degan crashes in qualifying and then crashes in the motos, but when Degan gets a whole shot, can Swole maybe not? Now there's an interesting topic right there. But hey, guys, enjoy your weekend. If you're riding, racing tomorrow, just keep it on two wheels, but also keep that elbow down and just This is Johnny Hopper. I will have the podcast on Monday live, 10 a.m. Eastern. Zach Osborne is going to be the guest. Yeah, so that's going to be a banger for sure. And then Tuesday I'll have the rider analysis for Redbud out. So hey guys, thanks for stopping by.